Real Madrid is one of the biggest clubs in Europe. In fact, if you ask fans of the club, they'd tell you they're the biggest. But you know, the bigger the club, the bigger the skeletons in their closets. Well, you've come to the right place, because we have it all uncovered for you right here. These are 10 things Real Madrid never wanted you to know. And we'll kick things off with a shocker from the past. The infamous El Clásico game, which Real Madrid won 11-1. That scoreline should be a thing of pride for Los Blancos, but it's actually one of the most shameful things in the club's entire history. And no, I'm not just being dramatic here. It's actually really shameful. Let me start from the beginning. So back in 1943, General Franco had Spain in his iron grip. He became the supreme leader of the country, and whatever he wished was law. He loved the city of Madrid, so he favored Real Madrid, making them the team of his dictatorship. And his love for Real Madrid simply meant that he hated the enemies of Real Madrid, aka FC Barcelona. Barca beat Madrid 3-0 in the first leg of the semi-final of the Copa del Generalísimo, what we now call the Copa del Rey. So ahead of the second leg, Franco's director of state security visited Barca's dressing room. He dropped a few words for the Barcelona players, and of course, they weren't words of encouragement. The players were rumored to have also been threatened by the police, and some of them said that they feared for their lives. On top of all that, there was still very questionable officiating during the game, which all led to Barcelona conceding 8 in the first half alone. At full time, the scoreline was 11-1. Till date, that game remains one of the most controversial football matches in history of Spanish football. A dark chapter indeed. Some even say that that was the day that El Clásico rivalry truly began. You can see why Madrid fans don't brag about the scoreline in spite of how glamorous it looks. Well, yeah, all that happened in 1943. What about the present day, you ask? Well, Real Madrid's present day record isn't very clean either. They're known and celebrated as the only football club to three-peat the Champions League. But anyone who followed those campaigns knows that the victories weren't 100% deserved. In 2017, Bayern Munich looked poised to crash their party in the quarterfinal. But somehow Madrid managed to win. How? Well, simply put, by cheating. Replays show that not one, but 2 of Cristiano Ronaldo's goals in the second leg were scored from an offside position. Also, Arturo Vidal got sent off in that game, but it was clear that he had won the ball very cleanly. It didn't matter to the ref though. He was off, and Bayern had to play the entirety of extra time a man less. If everything went how it should have in that game, Madrid would have lost, and there would have never been a three-peat. And it happened again the following year. Juventus had already completed their comeback in the second leg of the quarterfinal game, but Madrid were awarded a controversial penalty at the death. Buffon was sent off, and Ronaldo scored to put the game to bed in the 97th minute. These games surely put a huge question mark over their European pedigree. And speaking of their European pedigree, Real Madrid wants you to see them as the greatest club in European history, which is why they don't want you to know that they once went 32 years without winning the Champions League or the European Cup, as it was called back then. Between 1966 and 1998, Real Madrid won absolutely nothing in Europe. So throughout the 70s and 80s, their fans were more quiet than they are now. It's crazy to hear that the kings of Europe once went more than 3 decades without a single European trophy. But yeah, that happened. They're just trying their best to hide it from you. You know what else they're trying to hide from you? That one game against Barcelona in 2009. Yes, the one where Real Madrid were humiliated 6-2 right in front of their own home fans. See, there's nothing worse than losing to your arch rivals in such an embarrassing manner in front of your home fans. Absolutely nothing. And to worsen things, Madrid actually scored first in that game before Barcelona turned around and gave him a mauling. A 21-year-old Messi scored twice and assisted once. Henry scored twice. The 2 center backs, Piqué and Pujol, got a goal each, while Xavi assisted 4 goals in that game. It was a party for the Blaugranas. And speaking of parties, it appears that Los Blancos are terrible at throwing farewell for their legends. This club is notorious for treating their legends poorly, and they hope nobody talks about it, but not anymore. From Iker Casillas to Raúl González to Fernando Hierro to Zinedine Zidane, and even to Sergio Ramos and Cristiano Ronaldo, Madrid just tosses legends aside like pieces of rags when they're done with them. After 14 years at the club and 16 trophies won, Hierro was basically forced out of the club. Perez just refused to offer him a new contract, so he left left the club and moved to Qatar. And it's basically the same story with Raul. He spent 16 years at the club, and instead of being given a legend's goodbye, he was forced out of the club in 2010 for being too old. Figo would later come out and confirm that everyone knew about the whole situation, that Raul never wanted to leave Madrid. He wanted to retire there, but he was forced out. Sergio Ramos made the same statement when he left Real Madrid in 2021. He said he never wanted to leave the club. Casillas, who is easily the greatest keeper in Madrid's history, was treated very unfairly and chased out of the club because he fell out with Florentino Perez. Same thing with Zinedine Zidane. During his second stint as coach, he fell out with Perez. The relationship and trust was broken, so Zidane asked to leave and never looked back. This was a coach who three-peated the Champions League. And what about Cristiano Ronaldo? Same thing. His relationship with Perez broke down, and one of the club's biggest legends was forced out of the club just like that in 2018. We could really go on and on with this list. It's just cruel how these guys treat their legends. Compare this with the farewell Barcelona have given to the likes of Xavi, Iniesta, Piqué, Busquets, and Alba over the years. They try to spin a narrative that it's just because nobody is bigger than the club, but in truth, the president appears to be bigger than the club. Anyway, since we mentioned Ronaldo, let's tell you another secret Madrid don't want you to know. With how great Cristiano Ronaldo is, did you know that he won just 2 league titles in his 9 years at Real Madrid? Yes, just 2. That's a very poor record no matter how you look at it. Meanwhile, in the space of those 9 years, his arch rival Lionel Messi won 6 La Liga titles. 2 versus 6 is definitely not very good for Ronaldo in the GOAT debate. So Real Madrid and their fans want this fact to go under the radar. And still on this La Liga topic, another thing Real Madrid didn't want to go under the radar is that they once went 21 years without winning a single league title. Between 1933 and 1954, Real Madrid did not end any single season as champions of Spain. Oh, Real Madrid? Damn, shit is real. Speaking of, have you ever stopped to wonder why Real Madrid has that Real in the name? Well, that's something the club probably doesn't want you to know. Real Madrid is basically Royal Madrid, and you know what that means? They have a special connection with the Spanish monarchy. When they were founded, they were called Madrid FC, but in 1920, King Alfonso XIII bestowed upon them the royal title, and that's when they started being called Real Madrid, and they were also granted the privilege of having the crown on their badge. They lost this privilege in 1931, but they got it back after the Spanish Civil War. This might look like an irrelevant piece of information, but when one of the biggest clubs in the country always gets a seal of approval by the government, both under dictatorship and monarchy, it's surely going to raise eyebrows. And that's exactly why they don't want you to know this. Alright, let's leave politics and come back to football. Did you know that Luca Modric, one of the greatest midfielders in Real Madrid history, was once named the worst signing of the year by Marca? The Croatian found it so hard to adjust to a new life in Spain, so his performances were not up to par, and he was quickly branded the worst signing of the year. Die-hard Madrid fans didn't even give him their support. Now he's a proper legend, and the club wishes they can wipe out his first year from everybody's memory. No way, bro. No way. Finally, let's talk about Florentino Perez and his Galacticos policy. When Perez first became president, he brought with him this policy of buying superstar players and building a formidable team with the best players in the world. He knew it would cost him a lot of money, but he didn't care. It would also win him a lot of trophies, right? Wrong! The truth is that the Galacticos policy actually failed. The first Galacticos era came in the early 2000s. Perez signed Beckham, Ronaldo, Figo, Cannavaro, Owen, and Zidane. Yes, they became highly marketable after these signings, but the trophies didn't come in at the rate that they thought they would. They went 3 whole years trophyless after these signings. Michael Owen literally left Madrid without a single trophy, while Beckham won just 2. In fact, throughout his first tenure as Real Madrid president, Perez won just 1 Champions League. That's not very successful for all the money he spent. He became president again in 2009 and continued with his Galacticos policy, signing superstars left, right, and center. He signed 2 Ballon d'Or winners in Ronaldo and Kaká, and also signed Benzema and Alonso for a total of over 200 million euros. Back then, that was much more insane money than it is now. Guess What? They still didn't win the Champions League until 5 years later. And during that period, they won just one league title. Let's all just face it, the Galacticos policy was a huge failure, but Madrid want to mask that as them being able to attract big players. And not to forget that Betis spent 160 million euros on Hazard and Jovic, both of whom turned out to be huge flops. Now they want to switch things up and act like they now develop players when in reality they're just buying all these youngsters. 254 million euros on Vinny, Rodrigo, Bellingham, and Endrick? Come on, are they good players? Sure, but Madrid don't want you to remember the price tag. They want you to believe that these are youngsters that they developed from scratch. Well, that's just not true. Anyway, there you have it. 10 things Real Madrid never wanted you to know about. Are there more clubs you want me to dig into and expose? Tell me in the comments.